Hi everyone, Alan Bauer here in Bay City, Michigan again. Today I want to talk to you about the marshmallow test. What's the marshmallow test, you wonder? I've heard this story before, but I recently started reading this book. It's called Consistency is a New Currency, and it's a really, really good book. I mean, in this book, just kind of the gist of it, I'm about halfway through with it right now. I've had this book for about a month and, just trying to find the time to do it. Well, this morning it kind of worked out because I thought I had a 6 o'clock appointment, but I deal in different time zones. It was actually not till 9 o'clock. So I'm dressed, ready to work, everything. And, I got an extra 3 hours to kill. So I was able to go through about half the book here. But in this book, they talk about consistency as a new currency and about how, there's only 20% of the people that are like consistent. These are like the top producers all the time. Seems like everything they do, they just do right. Everything falls into place. And then there's the other 80% of us. And I'm going to throw myself in the 80%. Now, there's certain areas I can be a 20%er in my life, but not all of them. There's a lot of things I'm 80% on. Like, I know how to do it. I just don't do it consistently. So, in this book here, what I really liked is the marshmallow test. And I'm just going to read out of here. I got it on my iPad here. So, in the late 1960s, early 70s, a Stanford researcher named George Michel conducted a study. He began by rounding up 305-year-olds. And then they have in parentheses, and let's be honest, that had to be the hardest part of the experiment. One by one, he sat across the table from them and presented them with an option. He sat a single marshmallow on the table, and then he said to them, I'm going to leave the room for 15 minutes. You're free to eat the marshmallow, but if you don't, when I return, I'll give you a second marshmallow. Then he left. Any guesses on the percent of kids who were able to fight off the impulse to eat the marshmallow? Well, if you guessed 20%, you were right. And this is pretty much the way things work in life. He said, you nailed it, 20%. He said the other 80% were overwhelmed by their desire for immediate gratification. Some kids ate the marshmallow before Michel had even gotten out of the door. Let me just go to the highlighted parts here. So anyway, several years later, they had realized they had enough contact information to track down the participants. The kids were now 17 and 18 years old that they were surveyed. Was there a difference? Yes. He said a dramatic one. The teenagers who did not eat the marshmallow had higher GPA scores, higher SAT scores, and were judged to be more socially advanced. Now they go forward again. 20 years later, 20 years had passed and another follow-up study was undertaken. Now nearly 40 years old, the non-marshmallow eaters were found to possess higher academic attainment, more career advancement, greater earning power, and more relationship satisfaction, and even lower body mass index. In virtually every metric, the 20% far surpassed their marshmallow eating brethren. So they drew two major conclusions from this study, from the marshmallow test. Number one, the ability to delay gratification is perhaps the major determiner of how successful we are going to be in virtually every part of our lives. Number two, that ability is hardwired into us by at least the age of 5 and maybe even earlier. So this is the thing. We don't really have a whole lot of say-so in this, how we're hardwired. So he goes on to talk about Carl Jung, and it's spelled Jung, but Carl Jung, the founder of humanistic psychology, said it's a paradox, but we must first accept ourselves as we are, then we change. So this presents the 80% with three options to tackle the rest of our lives. Number one, develop the ability to delay gratification. This seems the most promising approach until you actually begin the research. The authors could find nothing in books, seminars, courses, or documented human trials that suggest this can be done. So, I mean, it sounds great in theory, but can it really be done? Number two, accept that this is as good as our lives are ever going to be. We're never going to be more and have more or do more. Deal with it. And you see a lot of people like that, man. They just gave up on life. They're just like, well, this is it. You know, this is I've reached my peak and I'm staying here. And then the third one, this is the non-obvious choice. He said, since 80%ers don't have the gift of delayed gratification, then they must find a tactic or method whereby they use their overwhelming inclination for instant gratification in service of achieving their major goals. So I'm going to stop right there. I don't know exactly how he does it yet. You know, I've only got halfway through the book, but this is really, really intriguing to me because, you know, even he gave an example, you know, some other examples here, but, you know, I know I'm one of those 80%ers. You know, I've battled with my weight over my life, you know, so I did have to find things that I was consistent at. Now, I don't know if I just accidentally stumbled onto some of this because you know, I did contests at work before. You know, they had this weight loss thing at the beginning of the year. Okay, I'm all gung ho in it, and I go out there and I starve myself and I work out like crazy. I do these 20-mile bike rides and I walk 10 miles a day on top of that and do all this stuff. And yeah, I can drop a lot of weight. I mean, I drop like a ton of weight. I win the contest, but then what happens when you check in on me 2 months later? Boom, all the weight comes back and maybe a couple pounds more. So am I really helping myself? So this time around, you know, CTFO came out with that extreme shake. I've been doing this shake now. I don't know. Karen just told me whenever it came out, 2-3 months now. I've been doing it. I'm down 21 pounds, but I'm kind of staying at the 21 pounds, but I am building more muscle and losing more body fat, so I'm good with that. You know, and the weight will still keep coming down. I'm not so worried about the weight, but the cool thing is, like the shirt I have on, I couldn't even get into it before. I mean, I was like bursting at the seams, and I'm thinking, man, I got to go up another size. So I got down on this, and now the shirt's, you know, it's nice and loose on me. It's, I may have to go down another size eventually here. But even on the belt, you know, I was at the wrong end of it where I was going to have to get a bigger belt. In fact, I did buy one, and now that doesn't fit anymore, but I'm good with that. Now I'm down on the last notch of this belt, so I'm going to have to step down. And I already have that belt there, but it's just consistently, you know, like I can't go to the gym and work out like, you know, every day and for hours and hours. It's just not me. I'm not wired that way. What I can do, I can do one set of kettlebells a day. And that's all I've been doing for exercise. I do one set. I mean, it takes me like less than 10 minutes to do this. I do my two shakes, you know, one in the morning, one at lunch, and then I just eat normal. Not even normal all the time, like on the weekends and stuff. Karen will make this pineapple fluff, and I mean, this stuff is like, oh my God, it's just so good. We joke about it. I'll ask her, it's like, hey, do you want any of this? And she does. I gotta like put some aside because I will eat this whole bowl of it. But even doing that, I'm still dropping weight. You know, and I just save some of the little things like that till the weekend. But most of the time during the week, I'm doing pretty good. But I always do my two shakes. I mix them up in coffee. You know, I learned that from one of the team members there. So anyway, I want to get into this because, you know, we always have like there's these few people that you always see in the network marketing companies, or as I like to call them, the leverage sales companies that do very well. And we finally did well, but what was it? We changed. We really did consistency. I'm not smarter than anybody else. I don't have this magic power. I'm not this guru or anything. We stuck with it, and we kept hitting at it. You know, did some blogs, some videos, talked to people. Karen talked to a bunch of people that she knew, and we got some retail places set up. So I mean, we did this together. We did this combined thing, and we were consistent at it. Now, what happens when we stop being consistent? We slack off. You know what? Our numbers go down. Like the old saying says, either you're growing or you're dying. So the people that are at the top, they are consistently hitting it. It's not like they have some magic formula. The magic formula is consistency. So I don't know the rest of the book yet, but this is a pretty good book. And I just wanted to share what I learned on it so far. And this is really about, instead of just taking for granted, like, hey, 80% of the people sign up, you know, and they're never going to do anything. instead of just kicking them to the curb and saying, well, let me just go out and find all these top leaders, it's talking about people like me, you know, the 80 percenters that struggle with this stuff. You know, I'm not naturally inclined to go out there and make these sales and do all this great stuff, but we've been able to hit this. And this book is actually going to help me understand this even more. And my real goal here is to help that 80%. You know, the 20%, they're doing good. You know, they go out, they build the business, everything. What about the 80%? They know how to do it. They just, but they can't do it consistently. So that's what I'm looking forward to in this book, and I'm going to share that with you too. If you do want to read the book, like I said, it's called Consistency is a New Currency. Drop me a line. I'll post a link on it. Thanks. That's all I got.